Welcome to Vantage Points. We're still in beta mode, and we're going to be in beta mode until the end of April, and then we're going to launch officially in the month of May. Today's episode with Daniel Blois, who is recovering from COVID-19 infection, and he's going to tell us the story about his experience. And Daniel is a friend of mine. We've known each other for at least 5 years now. So, Danny, why don't you first introduce yourself a little bit?
Hello, my name is Daniel Blois. I'm 42 years old. I work as a computer programmer, but my interests are in, as you can see behind me, political science, economics, philosophy, history, of those topics. I have a master's in international political science with a focus on economic development.
Excellent. And tell me, the first time that you had some symptoms and you felt that there's something going on, when was this?
It was exactly 2 weeks ago today. Tuesday morning, I started to feel a little bit of a cough. It wasn't too bad. It was just a cough. Mm-hmm. And I did have to go out because one of my bookshelves looked like it was going to collapse. And I was afraid if it collapsed, it was going to collapse on my cat. And I wanted to protect her. So I did go out, got some nails that day. I came back. I fixed the bookshelf. But not too long after I fixed the bookshelf, I started to feel like, you know how you feel when you have a fever? How your body starts to get very weak and you start to feel very warm. So I started to feel all that. And that morning, I was actually supposed to go somewhere to my friend's parents' house to do some repairs for them, which I usually do. But the minute I had the cough, I said, you know what? Let's cancel. If I don't have a cough in 2 days, I'll come over because they're over 60 years old. So they're even more susceptible.
And this was happening in the middle of all this pandemic. And, you realized from the cough that just in case this is it, I better avoid people, especially elders.
Yes. Prior to that, I wasn't going out much. I was going out if I had to go to the store. And since I live in an apartment building, to throw out my garbage and to get my mail. But that's it.
Okay.
And I would go for a walk, but I would go for a walk where there's nobody.
Understood. So what happened after? Did you take anything? Did you?
Well, I didn't have a thermometer at first. I actually didn't have a thermometer for about 3 or 4 days because I tried to get one once the quarantine started happening and everything like that. Every place is out of them. One of my friends on Facebook, who I've never met in person, she's a very nice woman. She messaged me and she said, you know what? I'm going to send you a thermometer. She sent me a thermometer and she sent me some face masks.
Okay.
So once I got that, then I found out that I had 101 fever.
Wow. And that was for the duration of those 4 days?
For about those 4 days, yeah. I don't know if maybe it was a little less, a little bit more the days before, but I felt roughly the same those days. I called my friend Derek, and he went and got me some Tylenol and some other things. And he dropped it outside, and I went outside and picked it up.
Wow, Tylenol, there's a lot of chatter about how ibuprofen suppresses.
Yeah. I read that. They say a lot of doctors are saying there's not that much evidence for it, but just to be safe, take Tylenol anyway.
And that was specifically for the fever, correct?
Yes. But I only took the Tylenol before I went to bed because I couldn't fall asleep without it. Because, your body's like so achy. You just can't fall asleep. And I need a good night's sleep or it's going to really mess me up even more.
So body aches, fever, cough, and did the cough progress? Anything else?
It's weird because, like I said, I had the fever for about 10 days. During that time, I would cough maybe 20, 25 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
After that, my fever's been gone, but for at least 2 or 3 days, I coughed more.
Okay, and it is this what they say, the dry cough?
Yes, a very dry cough.
Okay, and this lasted, you said, for a total of 10 days?
The cough, I still have the cough a little bit today, not much, but a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And today's the 14th day, which they say is roughly when people start to get better, if they're going to get better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so any other symptoms that you have?
I haven't had any other symptoms. I've been checking daily if I could, if I still have lung capacity, because they say that's a major problem.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had trouble holding my breath, so my lung capacity has been good. I didn't lose any sense of taste or smell, which are two others. Chest pains I haven't had. Like I've had like here and there, like up like for like 5 minutes, my chest might hurt, but that's really it. And like because of hearing about the symptoms, and that's one of I'd be like worried. Oh, but then it would get better within 5 minutes.
Okay, so when did you decide to be tested and what happened?
Last weekend, I was like, you know what? I should get tested because it helps me. First off, it relieves pressure on my mind if I found out that I didn't have it now. I'm like, I'm safe. Or if when I do get better, it would relieve pressure on my mind after because, I'm a little safer going out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay. And I just paid for insurance because I lost my job because of this for now.
Mm.
And so I paid for insurance, and the place I was going to, they wouldn't accept the insurance. So I'm like, what if I pay out of pocket? They're like, okay, we'll do it for you.
Mm.
How much? $160.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, I'll pay for it. The place I did it. They had like a drive-in where you come in, you park in your car, and you just stay in your car. They come from car to car, and they stick the thing up your nose.
Mm-hmm.
And most painful thing, I compare it to the scene in Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger where he stings the thing up his nose and pulls it out. It was quite painful.
Oh my God.
Then they told me it was 4 to 7 days before I would get my results.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got my results back in 5 days. They called me up. They told me I was positive.
That's amazing. So you said you did the test last weekend. That means it was about 10 days after the first symptoms.
No. Last Sunday I took it. So yeah, maybe 9 days after the symptoms, or 8 days because it was the Tuesday. No, actually less than that because it was the Tuesday prior.
Mm-hmm.
So last Sunday I took it, not the Sunday that just passed, the Sunday prior to that. And that Tuesday prior is when I had it. So that would have been Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So that was 7 days.
Okay.
On Sunday, and then once I got the results, it was already 10 or 11 days that I've had it.
Mm-hmm. And by that time, when you got the results, how was this? Like the symptoms were gone, or what exactly is the case?
They were mostly gone. I still felt a little achy in my bones and stuff like that in my muscles, but that could also be because I've been dormant in my house. I've been walking maybe a couple 100 steps a day, so my body could just be almost like atrophied from not moving much.
Mm-hmm.
So today, when I felt the most, I figured, I want to go for a walk, not near people, just to make sure in case I'm still contagious. But let me go for a nature walk.
Mm-hmm.
And even that, I feel it in my body, the walk, you haven't been walking in a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still a little sore, but I feel strong enough to do things.
Okay. So when did the fever subside?
Today is Tuesday.
Yeah.
Probably Saturday.
So about a week after.
A week and 5
Mm-hmm.
days or so. A
Okay.
week and
And
4 days.
throughout this time, you haven't taken any prescription drugs or
No.
anything else?
I took, like I've read, there's no evidence of it yet, but it doesn't hurt. I've taken vitamin C and I've taken zinc.
Okay.
Because zinc is useful for other coronaviruses because, this technically isn't the only coronavirus. It's just a novel coronavirus.
Yes. I heard a lot about those two, actually.
Yeah.
Additionally, also vitamin D3, very helpful for the immune system.
Yeah, I take vitamin D every day anyway because they say people at our age, almost everyone has a vitamin D deficiency.
Correct, yeah. So, I mean, I find it very interesting that, like, you basically just took supplements. You didn't need medication. You didn't try this hydroxychloroquine
No.
or anything else. And when you did the test, were you examined by a physician, or they just did the test on you and that's
All they did was the test. They didn't test my temperature or anything else.
And have you, like, been in touch with any physician or?
My doctor, who is at the same place, called me after. She asked me how I was doing and everything like that. I mean, it was lucky because like a week before I got sick, I got got a physical, a full physical, everything. And I figured because I lost my job, I wanted to do it before I ran out of that health insurance. So I got the physical, and she checked my lung. Like, I'm in a great condition. There's nothing wrong with me. So that's probably a good part of it. Like she said, my lungs were perfect. The only thing I had was my a little bit low vitamin D. They told me to up my my supplement a little bit, and then my triglycerides are a little high. But besides that, everything else, my kidneys, my lungs, everything came out perfect, which means I'm in a better shape, I would say, to get something like this, because people with ailments are the ones who are really bad.
Correct. So your immune system is not that compromised compared with others.
Yes.
With underlying conditions or elderly or weaker immune-wise. So you was working as a computer programmer and you lost that job because of the stay-at-home order?
Yes. It's weird because, so it was actually roughly 2 weeks prior to when I started to actually come down with these symptoms. I did have a cough one day, but people could just have a cough in general. Like every now and then you could just have a cough. So that Monday, I had a cough, and this was one thing started to really pick up. So I called out of work, and I figured it's better to be safe because of everything that was going on. So the next day, I was going to go because my cough was better. So I was going to go back to work. They told me, no, you need a note to come back. So I'm like, okay. I went and I got the note. I got the note on Wednesday. But they're like, it's weird because the doctor's office actually messed up on the note. I was supposed to be able to go back Wednesday. They wrote on the note Thursday. I'm like, okay. I'll just go home and I'll just take another day off. Wednesday night, they called me up and they're like, because of everything, we have to lay you off. They told me it's temporary, but they don't, of course, know how long. Could be 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever. I'm not just a computer program.
I'm sorry, let you off just yourself or let everybody off?
They let a bunch of people off. They didn't let everybody off. But like myself, technically my job mainly there is business intelligence. I've done programming on the side while I was there to help them out. They don't have any programmers. But they hired me, like I said, for business intelligence. So what they did was they laid me off and they kept the woman who has more experience with business intelligence there for now. But she's working remotely.
Mhm.
Like most people don't go into the office anymore. There's a few people that do. They have to because it's a food distributor.
Okay, essential, basically.
So yeah, but the thing is, they mostly sold to restaurants. Most
Hmm.
restaurants are closed
Hmm.
or they got a lot less business. So right now what they're trying to do is they're trying to sell to supermarkets also.
Hmm. Okay.
They're still only, they went from deliveries 6 days a week to deliveries 3 days a week. And
Hmm.
those 3 days, it's also smaller than what it normally is.
Got it. So now they let you off, and you had a insurance coverage with them that was
Yes.
to expire at a certain point, which was before you got these symptoms,
Yes.
and then you had to pay for insurance so it continues. Like, is this the Cobra or something similar?
No, I paid for another insurance. Right here, it's called UH Universal Health Share.
Hmm.
Now, the thing is, I've always been the way I've always been aware of health insurance was there's two different types. There's the type you could go to any doctor,
Hmm.
and then there's the type you have to go to a doctor within their network.
Hmm.
That's what I've always thought.
Hmm.
So I get this health insurance. I'm like, this is one where you could go to any doctor, right? They're
Hmm.
like, yes. I'm like, okay, good. I get this. But then when I got this, I gave this to the doctor's office, and they're like, no, we don't accept that. I'm like, but wait, I thought this was the two different. She's like, but no, we still have to accept it, which I kind of understand, but I never knew there was that. So
Hmm.
even though I got this health insurance, it's been useless for me, and this cost me $360.
Per month.
It's $360 the first month. Then I think it goes down to $280 each month after that. But I'm going to probably
Hmm.
cancel it because it's useless for me.
Yeah, yeah. And I find it interesting that you had to pay for the coronavirus test when you basically had symptoms. You had the fever and you had the cough. So you went to this private facility, medical care facility?
I don't know if it's private. It's an urgent care.
Uh-huh.
Um, there's a bunch of them in throughout New Jersey, so I don't know if it's private. It might be.
What town?
This one was in is in Linden. It's
Okay.
called what's the name of it? I don't remember the name right now.
Okay. So, I mean, it baffles me that people have to pay for this coronavirus when the president said the tests are there, the tests are beautiful, and everybody who wants a test will get a test.
Yeah, I heard that. I'm gonna look
That's,
into see maybe if there's some way I could get reimbursed for it.
mhm,
Maybe, but
mhm,
yeah, I heard that like the day after I took the test.
mhm, mhm. Okay. So your experience now, I mean, right now you said you coughed today once or twice, so it's not
Yeah, not much.
bad. And if anything is residual, it's the body aches,
Yes.
joints wise, which should hopefully subside in the next few days. Throughout this time, you've been isolating. You haven't been in contact with anybody, correct?
Yeah, I've been staying in my apartment. Like I said, the only contact I sort of had was I once ordered food, but I went downstairs to the lobby and I had a mask, everything.
Hmm.
Um, and just throwing out the garbage and getting my
Hmm.
mail.
Do you have any idea? I mean, of course, most of us wouldn't know, but do you have a guess, a hunch on how you got it?
I'm thinking my apartment building because where my apartment building is,
Hmm.
it's right next to the train. And
Hmm.
a lot of people take the train into the city to work.
Hmm.
So, they could have just touched a handle or something like that. And
Hmm.
then I came in my apartment and touched my face or whatever. I'm
Hmm.
thinking that. It's either that or it's the store, but I think it's more likely my apartment building because there's probably about 60 units here.
Hmm.
And like I said, a lot of them work in the city.
Hmm. So, what do you think now about the reaction to the federal government and the states, especially in your case in New Jersey, like what do you see went right and what do you see needed to be done?
That's a hard one because, I mean, I know you know I'm an anarchist, but I do think when it comes to it, they do need to give unemployment and things like that because the government has cut out other types of solutions to those problems. So they have to help people right now.
Mm-hmm.
I am worried about the government in certain areas, surveillance that they're doing
Mm-hmm.
and the control they're getting from that. I'm afraid they're going to continue some of that after. I mean, there's certain states that they're using drones.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was California. There was a town that they were using drones to follow people.
Mm.
I know California is a lot more closed up than we are here.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of things that they could have done, which some of it is they could have done, but they had to have done 3 years ago for it to be useful now. Some of the things is they need to do now, like Trump not letting masks be shipped out of the country. That's stupid because we already proved we're a globalized world. So whatever happens in other countries affects us too.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that, stupid. There was a researcher that found a way to sterilize masks.
Mm-hmm.
To sterilize the masks that the first responders use. What is it? I forget the acronym.
Five.
Yes, he found a way to sterilize it. And at first, the government was only allowing them to sterilize a certain amount. Like, why?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you heard, like, to make alcohol, distilleries needed the government's permission
Mm-hmm.
to make the alcohol sterilizers. I'm like, why would they need the government's permission? The car manufacturers needed the government's permission to make respirators. Why? What's so dangerous about making a respirator? Like,
I mean, there are codes, of course, and regulations and this and that that has to be followed. As anything in our lives now, it's basically licenses and fees and
yes.
follow the steps and this and that. So you mentioned that you're an anarchist. Would you, in a nutshell, explain that to people who are not familiar with what that means?
The main thing about anarchy is, see, there's many different branches of anarchy. So I don't want to get too deep into it, but we are against, say, rulers. We'll say that. We're not against types of governance. There's ways to govern without having a ruler. So, like, right now, the way the United States is, the people above the United States, or even in the cities, there's so many people that vote for them and everything like that, that your choice is never, you have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
No matter who you vote for, the other person's going to get, whoever was going to get voted in is going to get voted in anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So when you break down anarchy to the smallest unit, it's more like, when they say self-governance, they mean governance like in townships. So if like you voted for the people that were quote unquote in charge within your town, and like say your town's only 1,000 people, now your vote matters.
Mm-hmm. But let me ask you, so how would you, like in a pandemic like this, work around anarchy? Like if it is everybody is separate and we see what's happening. For example, Governor Cuomo of New York every day press conference calling for the federal government to help because the states cannot do it on their own and they're competing with each other rather than getting the masks done and getting it cheaper and this and that. How would you reconcile the principles of anarchy with something like the current pandemic?
There's a, where is it? I haven't read it yet, but I just got this book. Now, this isn't, of course, anarchy itself, but maybe some ideas from here. I haven't sat down and fully thought about in this situation. There's been people that have talked about it and all, but being sick, I haven't been really studying anything right now.
So can you hold the book again to the camera so we can see it? Okay, so the title is Coronavirus and Economic Crisis, and I cannot see the author. Can you tell us?
It's edited by Peter C. Earl. It's an edited volume, so there's different articles in here.
Got you. And it seems very fast. When did this get written and published and everything?
Last week, but like I said, it's different articles, so it's much easier than a book.
Mm-hmm.
There's about 20 articles in here.
Collection of different authors.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so, like I said, there are certain things like you were saying before. How there's certain codes and regulations for who could make respirators and things like that. Now, see, that's part of the problem is because we have all those codes in there. Most of those codes are to protect certain industries. Like the reason why they don't want anybody to just make a respirator is because these companies have exclusive privilege or whatever. That's a lot of times why we have occupational licensing and things like that. And that's also the kind of the reason why, like you were saying about how different states are competing with one another. Well, that's also sort of because of the way the government is run. Like I was saying before, how the Donald Trump won't let masks exit the country to go to other countries that need them. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. Like that's all you're doing is you're creating some type of a economic battle, a trade war. They're going to stop sending us things that we need then. Mm-hmm. We need to support each other. Now, like you were saying before, it's really not everybody for themselves, anarchy. That's what some people think. Like, actually, that's if you're new to anarchy, that's what you would kind of think. And there are some people that have been in it for a long time that are, I would say, selfish anarchists. Like, they think that's what it's about. It's not. It's actually more about community, but it's about community helping with each other, not the state helping each other. Like mutual aid societies would be very popular within an anarchist society. It's where you know Debbie.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
You know Debbie?
Yes.
Her grandmother told me one time, sorry, she passed away not too long ago, but prior to her passing away, I was speaking to her in the hospital. And we were talking about the Great Depression. Mm-hmm. And she said, back then, there was nobody to help the poor. So we helped the poor. Mm. That's what we need more of. We need people helping each other. We don't need the state forcing it. It's hard because we're in such a society that we're used to the government doing everything. Nobody wants to do anything.
So before I continue, I'm noticing a very interesting shirt that you're wearing. It's no and bombs. No war. Okay. So no war with insert country here. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, I designed the shirt a while ago.
Oh, very nice. And I think you have like a side hustle for gear.
I had to cancel it for now because I wasn't making money on it. I was actually kind of losing a little bit each month. And when I had to move out of my house, I needed to save as much as possible. I just started a YouTube channel. And if that gets popular again, I'm going to try to use that maybe as a way to make money off the channel.
So, I mean, so the viewer can understand it. An anarchist is not someone who is, or should not be someone who is selfish, uncaring, pro-war and this stuff. Like you call yourself an anarchist and you're anti-war. You want to help people as much as you're able to, but what you're saying is that help should not be forced on you. Like no, for example, no one should put their hands in your pocket to take money and give it to the poor, for example. It's
Yes.
willingly from yourself.
Now, I will say one thing. If I only had two choices between the government taking money from me, like they're going to take the money from me for now anyway. If they're going to take it from me and go to war with it or give it to the poor, I would always choose give it to the poor. If that was my only two choices.
Understood. So you would be socialism for the people rather than welfare for corporations, basically.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Okay.
Like right now, one problem I have with the bill that they want to put through is bailing out the big corporations again. Stop bailing out the big corporations. All that does is increases the inequality in the world because they get bailed out and then we get scraps.
Yeah.
The people that are in the big corporations, even when their companies go bankrupt, they're still millionaires. They're not going bankrupt.
Yeah.
So all you're doing is you're increasing the inequality by doing this. And a lot of people don't understand that. They get bailed out all the time. And the world is not going to collapse if you don't bail out the big banks. Somebody else will fill the void.
The concept of too big to fail is just there to protect those too big to fail ones.
It increases their size because if you have a chance that you don't, if you do X, Y, and Z that has a good chance of collapsing you. Now, if you are allowed to collapse, you're not going to do that. But the minute they tell you, you know what, we're going to save you every time you collapse, they're like, okay, we're going to do it.
Yeah. So they reward, basically what happens, rewarding bad behavior and that bad behavior going by example, rather than allowing the company or the bank to actually collapse so others learn and not do the bad behavior. So, yeah, I understand. Yeah. All right. This been interesting. I wish you the best and I wish you speedy and full recovery. Keep us posted and looking forward to having you again when you're back on track. Thank you, everybody. This has been this week's episode of Vantage Points with Hisham and Maligi. There are hashtags, and there are hashtags. This is the hashtag. Take care.